At this moment, Gon's group is preparing to infiltrate the palace of the Chimera Ant King. But only Kahlua realizes that Gon's eyes are sinking and becoming dark. Meanwhile, in the sky, two people jump from a giant bird down to the palace. Pito immediately senses a very strong enemy approaching, so she releases her nen, focusing it upwards, to locate the enemy's position. The royal guards also sense something. Suddenly, they see a dragon. This surprises Pito because there are two very strong individuals advancing here. As Pito concentrates her nen to attack them, Zeno immediately transforms the dragon into numerous arrows shooting down on the palace. So, Pito pushes her six senses to the limit, to search for the enemy. That's when she jumps up and sees Netero. As Pito is about to release her nen to attack Netero, she immediately felt as if time had almost stopped. It turns out Netero has unleashed his nen, the 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva, and he has delivered an extremely fast blow to Pito. At this moment, he recalls his youth. Every day, he unleashes 10,000 punches of gratitude, and this continues repeatedly. After finishing his punching routine, he will go to sleep. Even as time passes, he remains in one place and punches. Initially, it takes him 18 hours to complete 10,000 punches, but one day, Netero realizes he doesn't take even an hour to finish 10,000 punches. Then, Netero went to challenge martial arts dojos. Unexpectedly, his punch speed was faster than the speed of sound, making everyone here bow in reverence, because seeing Netero is like seeing a bodhisattva. At this moment, Pito was hit by a very strong blow from Netero, and immediately sent flying far away, but she realizes that the king is in danger. So, Pito releases the Dr. Blythe puppet, and grabs onto her tail to pull her body back, allowing Pito to come to a stop. Pito realizes she needs to immediately return to the palace, because she sees many arrows falling down. On Yuppie's side, one of the three royal guards, he is still guarding the entrance to the castle. Suddenly, Gon's group appears, surprising Yuppie. So, Gon's group immediately takes action. Yuppie realizes they are intruders, thus, he transforms to block them, as he won't allow anyone to get close to the king. While Shoot is trying to attract his attention, arrows rain down and destroy the palace, surprising everyone, not understanding what's happening. But, Kahlua realizes, this is his grandfather's technique. While everyone is still surprised, Gon is still focused on Yuppie, causing everyone to not understand what he's doing, because facing Yuppie directly is too dangerous. While everyone is worried, Shoot feels proud of Gon, because he has always been someone who avoids danger, to keep himself safe, until he met Gon, and saw his strong will, which helped Shoot step out of his comfort zone. When Yuppie was preparing to attack Gon, he was hit by an invisible punch. Everyone realizes it's Knuckle and Melioron, who helped Gon's group overcome Yuppie, while he didn't understand who attacked him. At this point, Knuckle activated the amortizing power redirector on Yuppie, because he didn't understand what was happening. It made Yuppie angry and transform, making Knuckle worried, as he sensed Yuppie's nen was limitless, and he realized Yuppie is a terrifyingly strong monster. Knuckle even guessed he might be 10 times stronger than Chairman Netero. On Pitu's side, she realizes the king is in danger, so she releases her nen towards the palace, causing Gon's group to feel the terrifying aura coming from Pito. While Poof is very worried about the king, thus, he immediately rushes into his room. At this moment, Pito sees that Meruem is still safe, but Zeno and Netero are outside the room. She realizes she's running out of time. So, Pito exerted all her strength into her legs, and she immediately jumped towards the palace. Suddenly, Pito sensed a terrifying aura from the king, because that attack had injured the blind girl. Even Netero and Zeno were surprised by this power, but they didn't understand why a terrifying creature like the Chimera Ant King would treat a human girl kindly. At this moment, the Chimera Ant King ordered Pito to treat Kamugi, while Netero continued to observe. Suddenly, the king said, "We will fight elsewhere." On Yuppie's side, he had destroyed the staircase to prevent Gon's group from reaching the king. He is now waiting for Gon's group to appear, while Knuckle and Melioron are still stealthily observing behind him. Meanwhile, Shoot has been hit by Yuppie, causing his leg to break. It turns out Morel had created a smoke layer to help them hide, so he immediately created a team of Haze soldiers to attack Yuppie. But they were all defeated by him. He thought Morel wanted to fight him directly, not realizing he had left his weapons behind as bait. So Morel quickly passed Yuppie, making him angry and wanting to chase after him. But he was immediately punched back by Knuckle. making Yuppie furious, because he didn't know who attacked him. Suddenly, Shoot appeared in front of Yuppie, so he immediately caught his attention to take Morel's weapon and give it to him. Thus, Morel could leave and hand Yuppie over to Knuckle and Shoot to deal with. On Gon and Killua's side, they managed to get inside. Suddenly, Killua saw two guards here, so he turned back to deal with them. With just one strike, Killua defeated the two guards. On Poof's side, he was very worried about his king. When he was about to go find him, suddenly, Morel appeared. Poof realized he had no time left here, but Morel created Smoky Jail to restrain him, so Poof decided to deal with him first. On Gon's side, seeing Morel take action, he continued running to find Pito. Suddenly, Gon saw the Chimera Ant King walking out with Netero and Zeno. Netero also saw Gon, so he signaled to Gon that Pito was inside, making him eager. At this point, Killua caught up with Gon, thus, he also saw his grandfather. The king realized their purpose was to separate him from the royal guards, but he remained calm and told them to begin. So, Zeno released his Nen and created a dragon to take Netero and the king out of the palace. At this moment, Gon told Killua that Pito was on the other side, thus, Gon immediately advanced. But Killua felt worried for Gon, because Pito is too strong. On Morel's side, he's still trying to stop Poof, while Poof continues to flutter his wings to analyze his opponent. It turns out this move of his is called Spiritual Message. Suddenly, Poof released his wings and transformed into a cocoon. Morel realized he was transforming. On Yuppie's side, he's still continuously attacking Shoot. Even though he's constantly getting injured, he still tries to approach Yuppie. He realizes that if Shoot touches any part of him, that part will disappear, making him angry, continuing to fiercely attack Shoot. While Knuckle is still observing, waiting for the opportunity to attack Yuppie. But seeing Shoot continuously getting hurt makes him very uncomfortable. Realizing only 10 seconds have passed, Knuckle couldn't bear it and rushed in. Luckily, Melioron managed to remind him and helped him calm down. Unexpectedly, they were accidentally hit by Yuppie, causing his amortizing power redirector to decrease. So, Knuckle immediately kept his distance from Yuppie. It turns out Melioron has also reached his limit. He needs to take a breath to continue being invisible. Knuckles' amortizing power redirector also appears. This surprised Yuppie, not knowing what this is, but he finds thinking too much bothersome, so he decides to immediately deal with Shoot. And he launched many sharp spikes from his body. Unexpectedly, Shoot hit himself to avoid the attack. Yuppie continues to chase after Shoot at lightning speed, but Shoot has reached his limit. He thinks he's going to die. Suddenly, Knuckles shouted to attract Yuppie's attention. At this time, Killua met his grandfather. He said his job was done. It turns out Netero hired him to separate the king from the royal guards. When Zeno left, Gon also went inside to find Pito. On Knuckles' side, he's attracting Yuppie's attention. He realizes this Nen beast belongs to him. Suddenly, its number increased, making Yuppie uncomfortable and continuously attacking it. But no matter how he attacks, Knuckles' amortizing power redirector remains unharmed, making him angry and attacking Knuckle, asking, "What is this?" So, he lures Yuppie to chase after him. While Shoot is exhausted, he still wants to continue fighting. Seeing Shoot's efforts, Melioron is deeply moved. But he can't help Shoot, because Melioron's current task is to use his abilities to help everyone win. So, he immediately found a safe place to breathe, and continued to go support Gon and Killua. Suddenly, he saw Welfin ahead, which made him anxious, because he realized that he was the most cautious person in the Chimera Ant Brigade. Thus, Welfin began to search. Meanwhile, Melioron had reached his limit. He could no longer hold his breath, so he quickly exhaled and inhaled. Unexpectedly, Welfin sensed it. Thus, he immediately unleashed his Nen and transformed into Missileman. He immediately fired towards Melioron's position. Although his missile could follow the target, it could not detect Melioron's location. He thought he had made a mistake, so he dispelled his Nen. Nevertheless, he detected that someone had just been here. Welfin realized there was a traitor in the king's army. Meanwhile, Gon and Killua were advancing into Pitu's room. Eventually, they found her, while Pito was still treating Komugi. Suddenly, she sensed a very frightening killing intent emanating from Gon. "Do you remember me? I came here to make you treat Kite." But Pito paid no attention to Gon's words, because she had to follow the king's orders to treat Komugi. Killua also felt that Pito was acting very strange, and he realizes Pito is protecting the girl behind her, which shocks him, because a monster like Pito would never do this. but in Gon's eyes, he only sees the girl resembling Kite. So, Gon steps forward and tells Pito to stay away from that girl. Now, fight me. Unexpectedly, Pito raises her palm forward. She says, wait for me, which makes Gon angry, and he releases his nen. Meanwhile, Kahlua analyzes and realizes, this girl is very important to the king. So, Pito is forced to use all her nen to heal her, but Gon is very angry. Suddenly, Pito says, I will do anything. Please wait for me to save this person. Unexpectedly, Gon remains very cold and asks, do you want to save her? Suddenly, Gon loses control and releases his nen, because he can't believe a monster like Pito would do this. But Pito had broken her own arm, to prove to them that she really wants to save her. Seeing Pito willing to sacrifice for this girl, makes Gon very uncomfortable. He feels it's unfair, because this contradicts what Pito did to Kite, making Gon extremely angry. Go to hell. Gon immediately uses Jajunkin to attack Pito, making Pito worried. But Kahlua says, if you kill Pito, you won't be able to save Kite anymore. So, he calmed down. Gon asked Pito, how long will it take? When he learned she needed an hour to heal this girl, Gon decided to wait, and 1 hour later, Pito had to follow him to heal Kite. At this point, Melioron found them. While Zeno was leaving, he encountered Cheetu, who kept challenging Zeno to fight. But Zeno wasn't interested in him, and he said, be careful above you. Suddenly, a very powerful attack struck him. It turned out to be Kahlua's father coming to take Zeno back. Zeno realized Kahlua had grown up, because he had pulled out Illumi's needle. Melioron took Kahlua away, because he needed Kahlua's help to defeat Yuppie with Knuckle. So, Kahlua planned and asked how long he could hold his breath. Melioron could only hold his breath for a maximum of 1 minute. Kahlua felt that was enough. Knuckle was still being pursued by Yuppie, thus, he tried to run as fast as he could. Suddenly, Knuckle realized Yuppie wasn't chasing him anymore. It turned out the Royal Guard's mission was to protect the king, so, he couldn't go too far, and he thought the king was still in the palace. At this point, Knuckle immediately turned back to the staircase. He saw Shoot was severely injured, while he was still trying to continue fighting. So, Knuckle became very angry, because he realized they were being underestimated by Yuppie. It turned out Yuppie had returned earlier, but he didn't care about Shoot. At this point, Knuckle was determined. Although he couldn't defeat him, he had to punch him in the face once more. Even Shoot could feel that he was being humiliated. On Yuppie's side, he was trying to destroy the smoky jail created by Morel, because he thought the king was inside. Morel heard Yuppie's voice, so, he thought his 2 disciples had lost, while Poof was still in the process of transformation and observing Morel. Now, Yuppie was very angry, because he didn't understand what was happening. Suddenly, he encountered Knuckle, which made his anger even more intense, and he immediately transformed to attack him, even destroying the entire room. So, Knuckle immediately ran away with Shoot. Seeing a huge explosion behind him, Knuckle was surprised. Although everything was destroyed in an instant, Knuckle realized that if he continued to provoke Yuppie, he would have a chance to punch him in the face. At this point, Yuppie decided to kill all the intruders. Morel's side didn't understand what Poof was doing. Unexpectedly, he had managed to escape to the outside. While Knuckle was still waiting for the opportunity to attack Yuppie, he realized he needed to make him lose control again. So, Knuckle immediately ran out to provoke him. Unexpectedly, Yuppie was just pretending to be angry, to lure Knuckle out. Then, Yuppie released his nen and transformed. Knuckle realized the opportunity had come. He immediately moved to punch him in the face, to return the humiliation he and Shoot endured. Knuckle thought he had lost control. Suddenly, Yuppie transformed back to normal, surprising Knuckle, and he realized he had been tricked. When Yuppie attacked Knuckle, he realized he was about to die, so, Knuckle apologized to everyone. Luckily, Kahlua arrived just in time, and struck Yuppie with a lightning bolt, paralyzing him. Thanks to that, Knuckle was able to punch him in the face, making him very pleased, and Knuckle immediately ran away, making him very happy, because he was almost sent to heaven. While Yuppie didn't understand what was happening, suddenly, he saw Kahlua, which surprised him. At this point, Kahlua decided to fight him, so, he released electricity in his body. Turns out Kahlua's new technique is called God Speed. Surprisingly, he moves at an incredibly fast speed, attacking Yuppie in the blink of an eye, rendering him unable to see his strikes. So, Kahlua relentlessly assaults Yuppie, his speed increasing with each moment, leaving Yuppie puzzled, whose strength surpasses his by 100-fold. But, he couldn't fight back against Kahlua, so, he unleashes the whirlwind technique. a very powerful attack on Yuppie, which made him feel very interested. Suddenly, Killua's nen expires, prompting him to flee. Unexpectedly, when Yuppie gives chase, Killua vanishes, thanks to Melioron aiding him in stealth. Meanwhile, Morel keeps an eye on Poof, uncertain whether to attack him, as triggering a trap could result in his demise at any moment. Poof assumes Morel wouldn't dare to strike, but Morel immediately attacks the cocoon, taking Poof by surprise. Morel had deduced that Poof had escaped his smoky jail. Now, Poof realizes Morel's plan to separate him from the king. Suddenly, Poof disperses his body into tiny particles, creating thousands of clones of himself. So, Morel summons numerous Haze soldiers to capture him, yet, Poof can regenerate no matter how hard they strike. At this, he promptly departs. Morel realizes he can't let Poof reunite with the king, so, he immediately pursues Poof. Unexpectedly, Poof swiftly appears behind him, and he disarms Morel, leaving Morel in shock, as he fell for the deception. Suddenly, Yuppie emerges, making Morel anxious, but Knuckle arrives to assist him. Seizing the opportunity, Morel creates many clones of Knuckle, so, he decided to kill both of them. Meanwhile, Poof tosses Morel's weapon into the river, then continues to create numerous clones. To search for the king, he recalls being trapped in Morel's smoky jail, realizing his true body is still here. If Morel discovers it, he could be in danger. As Poof's power diminishes with each clone, Yuppie relentlessly attacks Knuckles' clones to find the real one, making Morel worry, as he only has 84 clones left. Now, Poof surveys the entire palace, but he doesn't see the king anywhere. Realizing the king has left the palace, so, he gathers his clones again, while Yuppie is still searching for the real Knuckle. Finally, he spots him. Unexpectedly, that was just a clone, which made him angry. Realizing everything is an illusion, he immediately attacks Morel. Suddenly, the real Knuckle punches him, causing him to explode, while Poof gathers all his clones again, despite observing everything in the palace. But, his priority mission was still to find the king ant. Meanwhile, Knuckle had also escaped. He realized that someone had taken Shoot away. Meanwhile, Shoot is being treated by doctors, which surprises him, as he recognizes who saved him. Meanwhile, Gon is still waiting for Pito to heal Komugi. Suddenly, she saw that Poof had arrived. It turns out he wants to kill Gon. But, Pito intervenes, as she realizes if he attacks Gon, he would immediately kill Komugi, leaving him puzzled as to how Gon can intimidate Pito. Gon says, "It's none of your concern, keep quiet." But, he was still not angry. As he prepares to leave, Gon tells him to stay, because he realized that he was the one who had been controlling the people in the kingdom. So, Pito advises Poof to heed his words, seeing Pito's concern, leaving Poof puzzled about what happened. Thus, he pretends to obey Gon, to understand everything in the king's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Yuppie is exhilarated, because he was now free to unleash his power, so, he immediately transformed into the Rage incarnate state. Making his body resemble a centaur, he immediately attacks Morel's and Knuckles' clones. While Knuckles' amortizing power redirector continues to increase, so, he expends a massive amount of Nen. Just 3 more minutes of waiting, and its special ability will activate, which made it impossible for Yuppie to use Nen anymore. While Yuppie is still gleefully destroying Knuckles' clones, unexpectedly, Morel was exhausted, and he realized that he no longer had any clones left, so, Yuppie found Morel. Suddenly, he praised Morel for being very resilient, for having fought him up to this moment. As he was about to kill Morel, Morel thought he was going to die. Unexpectedly, he disappeared. That immediately surprised Yuppie, but he saw blood on his weapon, so, he realized that among them was someone with invisibility ability. It turns out Melioron saved Morel, so, Yuppie follows the blood trail towards them, making Melioron anxious, fearing they'll be discovered. Suddenly, Knuckle appears, and he says, "I'll fight you, so, let them leave this place." So, you remove it, because Yuppie realized that this Nen beast was very dangerous. But, Morel disagrees and pushes Melioron away, as all their efforts would then be in vain, leaving Knuckle unsure of what to do. As he's about to kill Morel, unexpectedly, Knuckle removes his Nen beast, disappointing everyone, because all their efforts became futile. Now, Knuckle decides to fight Yuppie to atone for his mistake, but, Yuppie unexpectedly decides to leave, leaving them surprised, because he adhered to the agreement with them. So, Yuppie departs to find the king, while Knuckle realizes his failure. But, Morel is still furious, as he ruined their plan, and he urges them to continue fighting. However, Knuckle doesn't want to fight Yuppie anymore, because he realized Yuppie isn't a bad guy. Suddenly, Nav appears, surprising everyone, as he's so terrified that he's lost all his hair. He says that the king is the real danger, so he uses his nen to create a teleportation portal, taking Morel to the medical room, while Knuckle still remains here, although he's not fighting Yuppie, but he will fight other royal guards. Meanwhile, Netero and the king continue toward their battlefield. Finally, they halt at a mountain range, where Netero says it's a government weapon testing ground, so they can fight without restraint. The king believes Netero won't defeat him, but Netero remains confident in his own strength. The king says, "I was born to rule this world," despite always considering humans as mere cattle. But he realizes there are still some people worth keeping. If Netero surrenders, he'll spare him, but Netero chooses to fight. On Poof's side, he's asked Pito about everything that has happened, while Gon still waits for Pito to heal Komugi. Upon learning the king has headed south, Poof creates a small clone to search for the king. Now, the king says he'll create an equal world, and he won't use power to instill fear. As Komugi's presence has changed his thoughts, he says, "I'll use this power to protect the weak." Netero realizes the king is torn between ant and human, despite knowing the king has changed. But the world leaders have ordered him to eliminate the king, so Netero is obligated to carry out this task. Netero steps forward and releases his nen. The king feels time slow down. Netero immediately created the 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva, and immediately strikes the king. On Poof's side, he encounters Yuppie. After he listened to Poof recount everything, Yuppie transforms and sprouts wings, and they both set out to find the king. Netero realizes the king is incredibly strong. As he withstands his attacks, surprisingly, the king still wants to discuss with Netero, but Netero immediately attacks him again. Netero thinks he has him under control, but the king is too powerful, making Netero feel the intimidating aura from him. However, the king still wants to converse, because he believed Netero wouldn't be able to defeat him, and he could only use words to influence him. Suddenly, Netero asks, "Do you want to know your name?" Surprising the king, it turns out before the king's mother died, she named him. Netero says, "If you can defeat me, then I'll tell you your name." Unexpectedly, this piques the king's interest, so he releases his nen to fight Netero. Netero also immediately releases his nen. On Killua's side, after charging his body with electricity, he immediately runs to find Gon. Suddenly, Killua senses a formidable aura, so he observes to see who it is. Killua sees a woman approaching. At that moment, he realizes she's Palm. Turns out she's been turned into a chimera ant. Killua realizes if Gon finds out, he wouldn't be able to endure it, as what happened to Kite has been too much for him. So, Killua decides to talk to Palm. That made him worry, not knowing if she's now their enemy. Fortunately, Palm recognizes Killua, as she still retains her memories. Now, Palm is deeply worried about Gon, and she asks where Gon is. Suddenly, Killua realizes Palm is lying, as her ability is precognition, so she could easily know Gon's whereabouts, which infuriates Palm. She releases her nen, using her hair to envelop her body. Turns out this technique of hers is called Black Widow, so Palm attacks Killua, even shattering his yo-yos. Killua realizes Palm is very strong, so she kept attacking Killua and slammed him into the wall. Turns out Palm's hair armor is incredibly tough, not only serving as defense but also enhancing her attacks. So, she sends Killua flying again. He remembers Palm's nen is of the enhancer type, thus, her attacks were very powerful. Now, Killua realizes he's running out of time, because Gon is still waiting for Pito, so Palm continues to attack Killua. Suddenly, he realizes Palm still retains memories and cares deeply about Gon. Thus, Killua informs her that Gon is currently suffering greatly and facing his enemies alone. So, he wants Palm to go comfort him. Seeing Killua in pain made Palm hesitate. Turns out she's being controlled by Poof, because previously she had infiltrated the palace alone, but she was caught by Pooh and Pito. So, Pito turned her into their experiment, turning her into a chimera ant. They even captured all the kingdom's citizens to turn them into chimera ant soldiers. And Palm was their first experiment. Unexpectedly, Palm resisted Poof's orders, leaving him surprised. So, she defeats him. It turns out Palm has fully regained her memories. Now, Palm says, "The one Gon needs most right now isn't me, and that person is you." On Poof's side, he realizes their experiment has failed, as they couldn't completely erase human memories from the ant soldiers. Now, Knuckle has found Poof. realizing Gon is focused on Pito, so he challenges Poof. Unexpectedly, Poof reveals that this body of his is just a clone, while his real body has gone to the king's location. Turns out Poof said that to gauge Gon's reaction, but Gon immediately realizes he's lying, as he has nothing to prove that this body of his is a clone. So, Poof realizes Gon is very dangerous and possesses an incredibly strong will. At this point, Poof is still deliberately provoking Gon, making Pito worried. Suddenly, he splits his body into numerous clones and leaves, leaving everyone surprised. So, Pito says Poof's actions have nothing to do with her. Unexpectedly, Gon says, "You have only 10 minutes left," making Pito fearful, because all actions in response to Pooh's mockery didn't affect him. He even guesses her ability can heal within 10 minutes. So, Pito realizes Gon is very dangerous to the king. Now, Gon has informed Knuckle that the king is in the south, making Pito even more certain. She decides she must kill Gon to protect the king, but she doesn't know who to entrust Komugi to for care. On the king's side, he's deciding to fight Netero, so he continues to release his Nen, creating the 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva. And Netero keeps pounding the king to the ground. His attack even struck down into the ground, causing both to fall into a tomb below. Unexpectedly, the king remains unharmed. So, Netero continues to use his Nen, the 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva, and he strikes the king with a powerful blow, sending him crashing into the wall. But the king still rises and releases his Nen. At this point, the king continuously attacks Netero, but each time, he's pushed back by him, because Netero's speed is too fast. The king can't keep up with his pace. But he keeps advancing. The king realizes Netero always clasps his hands after attacking, and he senses Netero's rigorous training process. But no matter how Netero strikes, the king remains unscathed. Now, he acknowledges Netero's strength, so the king keeps rushing in to attack him at a very fast pace. But he's consistently pushed back by Netero. Turns out the king is analyzing Netero's attack patterns. He imagines their fight like a chess game, and he's analyzing every tactic to find Netero's vulnerabilities. It made the king very excited. While Netero realizes in this battle, if he makes a mistake, he'll pay dearly, but Netero was also very excited. So, the king keeps charging in to attack Netero, even though he's been struck by Netero in many places on his body. Unexpectedly, this time he manages to cut off one of Netero's legs, surprising him. The king immediately instructed him to stop bleeding and tell him his name. So, Netero compressed his leg muscles to stop the bleeding, and he says this battle has only just begun. Turns out, after playing chess matches with Komugi, the king learned how to analyze his opponent's tactics. He said, "This time, I'll take your left hand." So, the king immediately closed in on him. And Netero also exerted all his strength, because he realized this could be his final battle. Unexpectedly, Netero lost his left arm as well. Now, the king asks, "Can you tell me my name?" Surprisingly, Netero doesn't give up. He immediately uses Nen and unleashes his final move, capturing the king from behind. Turns out this move is called Zero Hand, and he launches an extremely powerful blow at the king, creating a massive explosion that destroys the area. After that attack, Netero is completely exhausted, but the king still manages to stand up, even though his body is heavily injured. Surprising Netero, the king says, "I was born to rule this world, and I am the evolution of a superior species. So, a human like you will never defeat me." He promises Netero that he will allow humans to live in a designated area, and he will control their numbers by consuming those he chooses. Netero then says, "Don't underestimate the human species. Meruem. Meruem is your name." Suddenly, the king begins to feel fear, because of the incredibly strong aura Netero is emitting. He says, "Don't underestimate the infinite evolutionary potential of humans." He senses his impending death. Suddenly, Netero stabs him in the heart. Turns out, the scientists had implanted a bomb into Netero's body, and it would activate upon his death. So, there was a massive explosion, and the shape of this bomb when it detonated resembled a rose. At this moment, Poof and Yuppie witnessed the explosion, making them worried. Meanwhile, Knuckle was outside the palace. He noticed Poof's real body had transformed. Realizing something was wrong, he immediately left. While Akalgo realized the intensity of everyone's battle, suddenly, he encountered Kahlua and Palm again, making Akalgo happy to see Palm safe. They were all very concerned for Gon, as he wanted to face Pito alone. But Pito was very strong. Even if they teamed up, they couldn't defeat her, so they decided to find others to help Gon. At this point, they had gathered with Knuckle and Melioron, and they decided they would continue to fight. Meanwhile, Gon was still waiting for Pito to heal Komugi. Gon said, "You've finished," surprising Pito, because he could see that she had finished healing Komugi. Pito couldn't understand how he knew. Gon told Pito to stand up, so Pito dispelled her nen. When Gon was about to leave, Komugi woke up. Before Pito could voice her request, Gon immediately threatened, "If you want to prolong the time, I'll kill this girl," making Pito realize she couldn't do anything else, so she had to follow Gon. At this moment, she realized she needed to find an opportunity to kill Gon. Suddenly, Killua and Knuckle arrived. He requested to place Nen tracking on Pito, but Gon refused, because he is confident he can handle her, and Gon asked everyone to take care of Komugi, surprising Pito. She realized Gon had used Komugi as a hostage. Gon said as long as Pito could heal Kite, they would release Komugi, so both immediately left, making everyone very worried. But Killua trusted Gon, believing he had planned this, while Poof and Yuppie were surprised, because the explosion was too massive, even melting rocks like an active volcano. Now, Yuppie realized he had made a mistake. Humans were too dangerous, so both jumped into the flames to search for Meruem. Finally, Yuppie saw him, causing him great pain, and he brought Meruem outside. Poof also feels a lot of pain when he sees him, because their king has been seriously injured. Suddenly, they saw Meruem was still alive, but with this condition, they didn't have time to search for Pito anymore. Suddenly, Poof came up with a way to cure his king, that was to let Meruem eat him. So, he gathered his cells, and put them into Meruem's mouth. Unexpectedly, this worked, helping Meruem come back to life. He felt very warm, making Poof very happy, because he had helped his king. Meruem said once he tasted this wonderful flavor, he wouldn't eat anything else, which made Poof even happier, so Yuppie also decided to let Meruem eat his cells. Meruem felt delicious, like he was in heaven, making Yuppie very happy. At this moment, Meruem wanted to continue eating, so both immediately let him eat all their cells, making them both very happy. He told them his name was Meruem, that's the name the Chimera Ant Queen gave him. Finally, Meruem was completely healed. He was even much stronger than before, while Poof and Yuppie both shrunk, but they were very happy. Suddenly, both of them realized that Meruem was very strange, because when he was about to die, he felt like someone was calling his name. Suddenly, he noticed that the bodies of both of them had shrunk, so Yuppie immediately lied, but Meruem saw through it, because if he lied, it would be considered as betraying the king. It turned out Meruem had forgotten all his memories, but he still recognized them as his royal guards. So, Poof explained everything to Meruem. However, Meruem still couldn't remember anything else. Thus, they decided to lead Meruem back to the palace for treatment, while Poof sent one of his clones back to the palace first, because he realized, if he could kill Komugi before Meruem returned, it would make his king become as ruthless as before. Suddenly, Meruem could grow wings like Yuppie's, because he wanted to test his new power, so he flew back to the palace very quickly. Poof realized that with this speed, Meruem would arrive at the castle in just 5 minutes, so his clone needed to act very quickly. Unexpectedly, as soon as he arrived, he was attacked by Knuckle. It turned out Palm had foreseen that he would come here. Unexpectedly, she had seen the king returning. At this moment, they realized that Chairman Netero had failed, making everyone worried, while Meruem found Knuckles' Nen beast very annoying, so he immediately launched a very strong attack on it, causing Yuppie and Poof to be surprised, because their king was very strong, but the Nen beast was indestructible, so they needed to quickly return. While Poof's clones were still trying to find Komugi, he was determined not to let her live. While Knuckle didn't know how to stop Poof, suddenly, he saw Killua carrying Komugi, so he immediately merged his clones and chased after Killua to catch Komugi. Unexpectedly, she moved very quickly, making him worried, because no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't keep up with this speed. Suddenly, he split his body to chase after Killua. It turned out he was using words to deceive Komugi, because Komugi was blind, so she didn't know who was the king's friend. Unexpectedly, she thought Killua was the villain, thus, she told him to let her go. Luckily, Killua managed to dodge his attack. Now, Killua realized he wanted to kill Komugi. Fortunately, Komugi only fainted, so Killua decided to protect her. He created a circle and said, "If you step in, I'll kill you." So, he immediately attacked. Unexpectedly, he lost an eye immediately after being hit by Killua. on Meruem's side, he had returned to the palace. Poof showed the king all the people they had captured, surprising Meruem. Suddenly, the image of Komugi appeared faintly in his mind, so he realized he needed to go to the palace. Now, Poof remembered the king in Komugi's chess room, thus, he immediately returned to tidy up the place, making Kahlua surprised, not understanding what he was doing. At this point, everyone saw the king had returned, so they tried to hide and wait for an opportunity to act. While Poof was tidying up the chessboard, at this moment, Palm found Kahlua. Thus, they decided to return and regroup with everyone. At this point, Palm was still observing Gon's situation. Turns out her eye was like a camera. On Gon's side, he had led Pito to where Kite was staying. Suddenly, someone called Pito, because ants have a special communication ability. So, Pito could hear the sound from the phone. At this point, Komugi said she was safe. Pito didn't need to worry anymore, so Pito was relieved to kill Gon. It turns out Poof had disguised himself as Komugi to deceive Pito, because he could mimic the face and voice of others. Now, Gon had led Pito to where Kite was. Seeing Kite kneeling in the middle of the room, Gon immediately requested Pito to heal him, but she said he was already dead, which shocked Gon. Seeing Kite fall down, Pito remembered she had killed him in the previous battle. Pito said, "I do not possess the ability to resurrect the dead," immediately plunging Gon into despair. On Palm's side, she was returning with Kahlua to regroup with everyone. Suddenly, she noticed something had happened to Gon, while Gon remained desperate, and remembering Kite, who had led him onto the path of becoming a hunter. Kite was like a mentor to Gon, so he began blaming himself for Kite's death, because previously, Kite had saved him when attacked by Pito. Gon started to self-destruct emotionally, seeing Gon's despair. Pito summoned Dr. Blythe. Gon thought Pito intended to treat Kite, but Pito was actually treating her own broken arm. Kahlua, on the other hand, realized that Gon was not okay. This made him very worried. He doesn't understand why Pito acted like that. While they were holding Komugi, suddenly, Poof appeared and announced that Gon was about to die, so he requested them to hand over Komugi to him. That made Kahlua furious. He immediately killed Poof's clone. Kahlua realized that Gon was in danger, so he handed Komugi back to Palm and ran to find him. At this point, Pito had finished treating her arm, and she said, "I must kill you for the king," while Gon remained in despair. Because Pito couldn't save Kite, suddenly, a dark black aura enveloped Gon. Pito was surprised. She didn't know what this immense surge of power was, and Gon transformed into another state, causing his body to begin to enlarge. While Pito was still in shock, and she realized she was right, because Gon's current strength could now threaten the King of Ants. Gon said, "I will use this power to kill you." So, Pito immediately summoned her puppet, to help her body exceed its limits. Then, Pito attacked Gon at a very fast pace, but he managed to dodge. Pito realized Gon had left the room. At this moment, Pito sees Gon resembling an adult. Gon suggested Pito go outside to fight, because he didn't want to destroy this place. So, both of them went out into the forest. While Pito was very worried, not knowing how Gon could be so strong, although knowing she would be defeated. But Pito still decided to kill Gon. Pito attacked Gon at a very fast pace, however, he managed to dodge, and kicked Pito into the sky. So, Gon used the Jajunkin technique, immediately generated an immense power, and punched Pito straight in the face, sending her flying back towards the forest. At this point, Gon made a huge sacrifice to gain this power, and the condition for this power was that Gon would no longer be able to use Nen, but it made Pito feel happy, because she felt fortunate to die under this power instead of the king. While Kahlua moved at an extremely fast speed to find Gon, finally, he found Gon, which surprised Kahlua, as he saw Gon continuously hitting Pito's head. So, Pito died, and Gon avenged Kite. While Kahlua didn't understand Gon's current state, he felt his power was like Bisky's, but Bisky transformed into a normal form. While Gon was completely different, he traded over 10 years of his life for this power. Suddenly, Pito's puppet was activated, and it made her body attack Gon, causing Gon to lose an arm. It turns out Pito had placed a curse on herself before dying, to turn her body into a puppet to destroy her enemies. While Kahlua was worried, Gon said, "Everything's fine," and he immediately attacked Pito, even using his severed arm to pin Pito to the ground. Then, Gon used the Jajunkin technique, creating a tremendous source of power, that made Kahlua even more worried, and he caused an explosion that destroyed the forest. At this moment, Meruem entered the palace, and he began to look around to regain his memories. While Poof was afraid Meruem would remember Kamugi, because she had changed the king, suddenly, Meruem felt something missing in this room, but he couldn't remember what was missing. So, Poof reminded him of Pito. Meruem also remembered she was one of the 3 royal guards. Suddenly, Meruem remembered he had asked Pito to do something. So, he ordered Pito to come back here. During the waiting time for Pito to return, Meruem decided to hunt down the people here, which Poof tried to prevent, making Meruem angry. Then, a dark aura enveloped the entire palace, making Knuckles Group fearful. While Poof admired the king even more, seeing such a massive amount of the king's aura made everyone desperate. Knuckle realized they couldn't defeat him, they needed the power of an entire nation to stand against the king. So, Knuckle decided to leave to seek help. Suddenly, Meruem used N to cover the entire palace. Thus, he discovered their location. Then, Meruem defeated Knuckle and Melioron in the blink of an eye. While Poof didn't know where the king was, his Nen beast had been dispelled. After Meruem brought them back to the main hall, he found there were still 2 fugitives, making Poof worried, because the king would discover Kamugi. He proposed to compete with the king, to see who would find the target first, but Meruem started behind them for a while, finding this proposal quite interesting, so Meruem agreed. Suddenly, Meruem also made a request, that if he won, they had to tell him what they were hiding. This shocked both of them, as Meruem had sensed from the beginning, that if not for their loyalty to him, he would have killed both of them, making them very happy. So, they began the match. While Poof searched for the 2 fugitives, Yuppie went to find Pito. On Palm's side, she was trying to flee the palace, because she realized they couldn't defeat Meruem. Suddenly, she saw Kahlua carrying Gon here, so, she felt relieved about them. As Palm was about to escape to the basement, Akalgo also arrived. Thus, they immediately ran inside. At this moment, they realized they could still live if they used Kamugi for exchange, and they took Kamugi into the room under the basement. On Poof's side, he was spreading powder to mesmerize the people, but he had weakened significantly, because he had given Meruem 6/7 of his power. On Akalgo's side, he had asked Welfin to convey his message to the king, informing that the girl was in the basement. But, Welfin was afraid of angering the king and being killed, while Palm worried he would betray them. Unexpectedly, Akalgo revealed his human name, which surprised Welfin. Not understanding how Akalgo knew his name, it turns out both of them were former comrades, and they had both been killed by the Chimera ants. So, Welfin agreed to help them, although he was very afraid. As soon as he went out, Welfin met Yuppie. Thus, he immediately told him that Kamugi was in the basement, which surprised him. So, he decided to go inform Poof. Suddenly, Welfin remembered his past life, and he realized the Chimera ants were the enemy. Thus, Welfin decided to attack him, making Yuppie furious, while Meruem tried to remember that he had fought in this room before. Suddenly, Meruem saw a chess piece, which made him remember playing chess with someone, but he couldn't win. At this point, Poof found Yuppie. Unexpectedly, Yuppie was dead, which he couldn't believe. So, Poof immediately went back to inform Meruem. Suddenly, he discovered Meruem had drawn a chessboard on the ground. Thus, he realized the king was gradually regaining his memories. On Palm's side, she realized something, so she told Akalgo that the king would die in a few hours, which surprised him, and they decided to hide Kamugi first, so they could negotiate with the king to save Knuckle and Melioron. On Poof's side, he was worried about not knowing where Pito was. Suddenly, he started to cough up blood. It turns out the poison inside Netero's bomb, because when humans created these bombs for war, they didn't want anyone to survive. Even that poison could spread to other creatures, so that's the most terrifying weapon humans created. While Poof didn't understand what was happening to him, Meruem started to use N to search for Palm and Akalgo. This technique could help him see everything, even seeing Yuppie's corpse. Suddenly, he moved to Welfin's location, making him frightened. Meruem asked, "Did you kill Yuppie?" But he wasn't the one who killed Yuppie, because before he intended to attack Yuppie, he coughed up blood and died. Although Meruem could sense Welfin's hostility, he wanted to know how much Welfin hated him, making Welfin very frightened. But Poof realized it would continue like this. Then his emotions will sway the king, not becoming a ruthless dictator anymore. So, he immediately offered to help Welfin, and he mentioned that he was involved in the secret they had bet on. Surprisingly, it made Meruem angry, while Welfin was very frightened, because when he saw Yuppie dead, he thought he could become king. But when he saw the terror of Meruem, He just wanted to go home immediately. Suddenly, Meruem unleashed his dark nen, creating immense pressure that terrified Poof and Welfin immensely. Although he was overwhelmed by the terrifying aura of the king, Poof still showed his determination and loyalty, unexpectedly making Meruem stop. Meanwhile, Welfin was extremely frightened. Even all his hair had fallen out. At this moment, he just wanted to live, because he realized that saying one wrong word would be instantly killed by the king. So, in that moment of fear, Welfin utilized 100% of his brain capacity, and he managed to say the name Kamugi, unexpectedly, helping Meruem remember who Kamugi was. While Poof was in despair, because all his efforts had failed, Meruem realized this was the secret he had hidden, but he still didn't punish Poof, and told him to go find Pito. Suddenly, Meruem thanked Poof, because he helped him remember something important, and promised to set him free. Welfin realized the king had changed, to the point where he even shouted out that he only considered Yiro, the person he wanted to find, as his king, while the chimera ants were the enemy. Unexpectedly, Meruem said, "I hope you can live as a human." While Poof was very disappointed that his king was once again swayed. At this point, Meruem entered the basement and found Palm hiding in a closet. Suddenly, he said, "If you fight for the survival of humanity, that battle has already ended." And now his only purpose was to meet Kamugi, which surprised Palm. It turns out he realized his time was running out, so Meruem just wanted to spend his remaining time with Kamugi. Suddenly, Palm stepped out and scolded Meruem, because she had been turned into an ant soldier. Thus, she couldn't believe the king would change and admit defeat like this. But Meruem still wanted to meet Kamugi, even about to kneel down to beg her, so Palm stopped him and agreed to let Meruem meet Kamugi, on the condition that she could observe their final moments together. Thus, Meruem agreed. Outside, Poof had died, while Meruem found Kamugi, making him very happy. So, Meruem woke Kamugi up to play chess with him. While Kamugi was enjoying herself, Meruem sensed his impending death. So, Meruem revealed his name to Kamugi, making her feel honored to know Meruem's name. But Meruem said if he wins the game of Gunji against her, then she is not allowed to use honorifics when addressing him anymore. So, they both started playing. The king was confident he would win this time, making Kamugi very emotional. Suddenly, Meruem told Kamugi, "I'm about to die," and he wants to spend his last moments with Kamugi, but if he stays too close, the poison will infect her. Surprisingly, Kamugi showed no fear, and she immediately turned the tide of the game. It turns out she's very happy to be by Meruem's side. At this moment, Meruem was blind, and he kept asking if Kamugi was still there. "I'm still here," Meruem said. "I'm tired. Can I take a nap?" "Kamugi, are you here?" "Yes, I'm still here. You'll be here when I wake up, won't you?" "I'll never leave you." "Kamugi, can you hold my hand and call my name one last time?" "Good night, Meruem. I'll follow you soon." In the end, Meruem and Kamugi died. That's all for today's video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to support Oni-chan in the upcoming videos. Thank you all for watching. Much love.